that was hot. Good morning, Granny Gear here for Old Guy on a Bike. Gravel bike tires. Have you noticed they're getting bigger? We're getting more and more choices in bigger and bigger volume gravel bike tires. Now, I've been riding a couple sets of new tires from Wilderness Trail Bike, the Vulpine S, the Vulpine 45, and I've also got a set of a 50 millimeter WTB Resolute. We'll be talking about all those, my experiences with them, how they've been after the break. But first, I got to finish this ride because my buddy Dave, he just rode over the hill. He left me. He's got no pity on this old guy. All right, I got to go. We will catch you back on my front porch at the fancy Granny Gear Rancho. See you in a bit. All right, I'm back on my porch, got my coffee cup in hand. Let's take a look at these new tires from Wilderness Trail Bike, shall we? So we got 3 tires. We have 2 of them in the Vulpine family, and you may have never used the Vulpines, or maybe you're familiar with them. I've used them quite a bit. It's a tire that I know really, really well. In fact, on my set of all-road wheels for my Turner Cyclosis gravel bike, I've got some 36 millimeter Vulpines mounted up on these Easton wheels, and when I'm going to go on a day that's really pavement heavy and just has some mixed surface stuff that I don't need a big tire, this is my go-to wheel set with a 36 millimeter Vulpine. It's fast, it rolls really well, and yet it has enough grip on good dirt surfaces to where it's not going to scare me if things get a little bit spicy. So there's 2 new tires in the Vulpine family, the Vulpine S and the Vulpine 45. Now the Vulpine had been a 36 and a 40. Now they added the 45 millimeter size, and when you look at the Vulpine 45, super familiar tread pattern. This one is in the tan wall, and other than that, you say, yep, that's a Vulpine, it's just a bigger one. And following along in the new Vulpines is the Vulpine S, which is a brand new tire from WTB. Now, the side knobs and stuff looks very Vulpine-esque, but what you have is a center ridge of solid rubber running right down the middle. It is also available in, I believe, a 40 size. This is a brand new tire, but I believe it's a 40 and a 45, no 36. Now, WTB says this is the fastest gravel tire they've made to date. Interesting. Now, we also have, this should be a familiar tire to you if you're used to seeing a Resolute, on my bikes at least, because the Resolute in a 42 millimeter size is my go-to gravel bike tire for Southern California use. This is a 50, it's max biggie. 50 millimeter, that's getting to be a pretty big tire. That's equivalent to a 2.0 in 29er speak. So I have not ridden this tire yet. You say, well, Granny Gear, what's the point then? Well, here's the deal. I did ride the Vulpines, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. But what I want to do, I wanted to hold the Resolute 50 out because I want it to have its own video, because I'm going to compare this to the very, very familiar 42 millimeter Resolute. Why is that? Because I want to see what you gain and what you lose when you jump from a, say, mid-sized tire of a 42 up to a 50. And what do you lose? What do you gain? How's that performance change? And how's that going to be? And so that'll be its own video. So for now, I weighed them, I looked at them, I touched them, but I haven't ridden them. All right, back to the Vulpines. All right, so I weighed them. I'll put the weights up on the screen. They mounted up very, very well. I used the WTB sealant. I was able to actually get both Vulpines to take and set and pop the bead, etc. on these Easton EC90AX. Whew, that's a word salad. EC90AX wheels that are on my Turner Cyclosis. And I did that with just one of those little bricks, those little compressor bricks you get, like on Amazon or something. So really nice match. They inflated really well. They've held air really well. No weeping, no leaking. It's what you'd expect to happen from a modern tire these days, honestly. Now, also, besides the new tread patterns and the new sizes, WTB has been refining their casing. So we have SG2, which you might remember from WTB tires, and SG. Now, SG2, that is a bead-to-bead protective casing liner in there for flats and cuts and things like that. SG has sidewall protection, but nothing on the top of the tire under the tread. Now we know, the science has told us, and we always must believe the science. Science has told us that a more flexible, more supple tire is a faster tire. And anytime you add those protection belts into tires, you do rob a little bit of compliance in the tire casing. So the SG tire should be a more compliant, more supple, and therefore faster rolling tire casing compared to the SG2. But the SG2, like, that's what's on the Resolute. The Resolute's an SG2 because they figure you're going to take that into some bad country, you know what I'm saying? And the Vulpines are SGs, so they are the more supple, supposedly faster tire casing. All right. All that said, how did I use them? Well, I took the Vulpines out and I used them across a wide range of conditions, from fairly difficult single track dirt rides with groups to my normal mixed surface rides, long rides, multi-hour rides, all the way up to the point where I just took them and I put them on and I went to the beach because it's getting hot in Southern California here. We escaped to the beach with the e-bike dog trailer set up and the dog. And we did 40 miles along the coast, went to coffee, went to lunch, etc. And so I would just be using either Vulpine, the S, or the Vulpine 45, depending upon the moment. Why would I do that? Well, you know what? Gravel bikes often are kind of a jack of all trades bike. Just, you may have a dedicated race gravel bike or off-road gravel bike, but sometimes your gravel bike is just what you grab just when you just want to go do something on your bike and you're not going 100 miles on the road or something. And so I wanted to know what the tires did across all kinds of conditions, because if they're going to fail somewhere and be not good, well, you might as well throw everything at them, see what they do. And the Vulpines did very, very well. As you would expect by looking at the tread pattern, they roll well. Now the Vulpine S, is that a faster tire than the Vulpine 45? Honestly, I'm not sure I could tell. I do have a strong impression though that the Vulpine S was a nicer riding tire. Now these are the same size, I'm running them at the same pressures. As far as pressures goes, I ran them from 25, 30, and 35 PSI. 25 if I was going to go fully off-road, and at 30 that would be kind of an all-rounder ride, and at 35 that would be like for my beach ride. So I experimented with pressures with both of the Vulpines. At 25, I felt that they dragged a little bit on pavement. At 30, it felt pretty good all around, and at 35 they spun really well on pavement. And at 25, by the way, off-road, it's pretty nice. You know, a 45 millimeter tire, these are actually ended up being 46 once they plumped up and ran for a little while, measured them. A 46 millimeter tire at 25 pounds at my weight, that's an awesome tire off-road. I wasn't worried about hitting the rim unless I was going really fast in the rocks, and I wasn't. And so 25 pounds for full off-road use, very nice. Like I said, 30 all around was pretty good, and 35, they spun along quite nicely on pavement. But back to my impression of the S. The S seemed to me a more comfortable riding tire. I never figured out why. It just seemed like it did a better job of absorbing, cracks in the road and things like that. Now it's the same casing, same pressure, etc. Is it tan wall versus black wall? I never really figured it out, and it wasn't night and day. It was just a subtle difference. Other than that, there was a smoothness to the S because of that center ridge. You're not getting any vibration at all. And I think if my riding was either tarmac heavy for a big tire like this, or I have had very smooth dirt, I can't imagine why you wouldn't just go for the S, because you might as well get the advantages of that fast center ridge working for you. Now for me, I would gravitate to the Vulpine 45. And the reason I say that is because the dirt here, especially in the summer, is so bad. It's just loose and rocky and crummy. It's sandy. The Vulpine is a terrible sand tire in the 36s and the 40s. It gets a little better in the 40. The 36 is terrible. The 45s are actually pretty good in the sand, and I attribute that mostly just to the fact, well, it's just getting to be a bigger tire. Okay. So where are we? So were there any negatives to the tires? I would say that both of the Vulpines seemed like they weren't excited about accelerating. You're out of the saddle, the road rises up, even on the road or on the dirt. They just felt like they took a little bit more to get going. Once they're going, they're going. But I have to attribute that, I guess, just to the fact that, hey, tires get bigger, they get heavier. And we're not used to that. We're used to having our gravel bikes be almost like a road bike. So when you start going to bigger tires, it's got to be a trade-off for something. They're both great rolling tires, especially on hard surfaces. When you look at it, you realize this really is a hard surface dirt tire. I don't do mud here, and certainly not going to find any this time of year. I wouldn't say the Vulpine is any kind of a mud tire at all. But I think, generally speaking, it's a decent all-around tread for most of the conditions people find that are harder dirt, harder roads, bad roads, etc. the Vulpine is a really, really good tread pattern. Now, at the end of all of that, the other day when I filmed, or at the beginning of the video, you saw me on trail riding with Buddy Dave, I had swapped back to my 42 millimeter Resolutes because I wanted to see how the Vulpines, after coming off both those tires, compared to my gold standard. And it was very interesting. First of all, the Resolute in a 42 millimeter size, it's an SG2 casing, just so you know. That tire rolls really, really well, and you wouldn't think so by looking at it, but getting out on the road, is it slower than the Vulpines? Well, it probably is, but honest to goodness, I don't know if I can tell. So that's pretty amazing. I'm probably getting fooled, but in any case, it rolls really, really well. I didn't think I was losing a lot in the Resolute, and what I gain in the Resolute is a lot of purchase off-road. In this crummy dirt we have right now, the Resolute just feels absolutely hooked up. It's just got bigger knobs, they're nicely supported, they're sticking out on the side a little bit. What's not to like? As well, that 42 millimeter Resolute ends up being about 44 millimeters wide. The weight is pretty close to the same. It's almost as heavy as these, actually it's just within a few grams really of these 45 millimeter Vulpines. So pretty close to same, except it has a much better rough dirt personality to it. And you'd expect that. That said, the Vulpines did not disgrace themselves under difficult conditions. I never had them let go or scare me. I think if you had to pick one of the two Vulpines, the S or the regular, and you are in more challenging dirt, go with the Vulpine 45, the non-S, because you've got at least center knobs that are, you know, broken up in the tread pattern compared to the center ridge. Sometimes the center ridge can steal a little bit of straight up braking traction, and then when you're cornering, you're coming off a center ridge to knobs, and that can be kind of unpredictable. The Vulpine, with the Vulpine 45, it's knobs everywhere, and so in that case, for me, if I was going to use either one of these tires, the Vulpine S or the 45, I would go with the Vulpine 45. I would give up maybe a little bit of pavement speed to gain a little bit of traction off-road. That's what I would do. Now, what else did I notice about the Resolute 42 besides the fact that it seemed like it rolled about as well? Okay, now this is going to be interesting because I swear I feel like I get a quicker acceleration out of the Resolute, out of the saddle, even up a little rise in the road, pavement, dirt, whatever. It just feels like it's more eager to go, and I can't exactly explain that. It's not a big weight difference. It should be slower. It doesn't feel slower. It feels actually more eager. It felt more eager, which I'm kind of mystified about. Am I getting fooled in feeling? Perhaps. In any case, I don't have a stopwatch to time my sprint up over the hill. But I don't feel like I was losing much with the Resolute. So I think for the moment at least, it does still remain my favorite tire. And the 50 millimeter version, that's yet to come, but that's going to be an interesting video series, I think. All right, that's my take on the new Vulpine S in a 45 and the new Vulpine in a 45. And thanks to WTB for giving me some samples to try ahead of time so you guys would have some opinions. I'm sure you'll see more of them out there. I'm sure other people were riding them too. WTB, thanks for sending those out to me at no charge. Thanks for the sealant that went along with it that helped me keep them nice and tubeless. All right, you guys have a great week and or weekend. And as always, you go ride your bikes.